Aloha, everyone. We're convening our Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, our Monday, January 31st, 3 o'clock agenda. We are in room 224 here at the State Capitol. Before I begin, I have to announce that this meeting, including audio and video for remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. So you can watch our hearings free all day, every day. When you're so bored, you can watch us. And when you want to be excited, you can also watch us. In the unlikely event that we hit technical turbulence and this hearing takes a nosedive, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, February 3rd, 3:10, Wednesday, February 3rd in this room. A public notice will be posted to the legislature's website. And for those participating remotely, all testifier audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. So those are the ground rules, and I'm lucky to have here with me Senator Misalucha and Senator Revere, and Senator Favela is online, and we are ready to get going. First item on the agenda is Senate Bill 2283 relating to the Hydrogen Strategic Plan. First on our testifiers list is David Molinaro, has submitted testimony in support. I'm going to just run to those who are inclined to join us via Zoom live rather than read through all of the testimony in support and opposition. We have Scott Glenn from the Hawaii State Energy Office that is joining us this afternoon. Scott.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, aloha, Vice Chair Misalucha, and aloha, Senators. Aloha and welcome, or I should say welcome. Looking forward to the start of a new session. So with EET, this is our first hearing and first bill. We submitted comments, you have our testimony, and while we did submit comments, I just want to emphasize that we do think hydrogen is a very important and key part of the future, and we support efforts on hydrogen and happy to discuss or answer any questions that the committee might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Before we get to our next testifier, I just want to let everyone know we have a very full agenda. So we're going to put a 1-minute time limit on all of our testifiers. Just FYI, sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but we are going to give everybody 1 minute to say their support or opposition. Next, we have Julie Yunker. She is testifying on behalf of Hawai'i Gas.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Julie Yunker on behalf of Hawai'i Gas in support of SB 2283. We asked the committee to consider amending the language slightly to include gas utilities and the stakeholders named in Section 3. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Julie. Next on our testifiers list is Darren Ishimura from Hawai'i Electric.
Good afternoon. Hawai'i Electric stands on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Darren. Next, we have Roberta Baker, who has submitted testimony opposition. Roberta?
Not present, Chair.
Oh, okay, sorry, Roberta, missed you there. Ron Riley also has submitted testimony in opposition.
Not present, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Riley's not there. That's all we have for our live testimony. Members, any questions for Scott, Julie, or Darren? No? Okay. We are going to move on to our next bill on the agenda. That is Senate Bill 2570. First on our testifiers list is Scott Glenn from the Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. We submitted testimony in support, and I'd just like to raise for the committee's consideration. We within the office had some debate and discussion about the term fueling and wondered if the committee might be open to considering the term infrastructure rebate program rather than the word fueling. That's the only item we wanted to raise for your consideration that we did not put into the testimony. But thank you again. Aloha.
Okay, thank you, Scott. We have Jay Griffin from the PUC.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. You have our testimony. We support the intent here, and I think we're coordinated with our contractor, Hawai'i Energy. We just ask that we consider an increase in the cap and the spending in the program based on the possibility that, to support these start charging stations, it's probably going to be a significant rebate. We can work with you, and I've been texting with Brian on appropriate numbers to put in there, but we definitely support the intent and hope to work with the committee. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jay. We have Julie Yunker from the gas company, or Hawaii Gas.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Julie Yunker on behalf of Hawaii Gas in support of SB 2570. Hawaii Gas stands on its testimony and support.
Great. Thank you, Julie. And we have, again, Roberta Baker and Ron Riley, who have expressed interest to join us live. Are they there?
Not present, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just FYI for the committee, we have 6 pieces of testimony in support and 3 opposed and 6 lending their commentary. Members, any questions of those who are with us live? No? Okay. Thank you, members. We're going to move on to the third bill on the agenda. That is Senate Bill 2478. And first on our testifiers list is Isaac Choi from DOTAX.
Hey, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair members. Josh Michaels on behalf of the Director of Tax. We'll stand on our written testimony offering comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. Next on our testifiers list, we have Scott Glenn from the Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair. We stand on our written testimony in support and note that this is also an opportunity to enhance the resilience of through biofuel production. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Scott. We have Henry Curtis from Life of the Land.
Not present, Chair.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Mr. Curtis. Ted Bolin from Climate Protectors of Hawaii.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. The Climate Protectors Hawaii are in support of renewable tax credits to stimulate renewables. However, we do have one concern, and that is that renewable tax credits not be given out to those types of renewables that are actually harmful to the environment. And I have in mind here specifically wood burning after cutting trees. And so I'd like to see some amendment to the bill to limit the tax credits to those who are helping the environment as opposed to those who are making it worse. I have submitted written testimony on behalf of the Climate Protectors and I'm available for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, Ted. Next, we have Julie Yunker from Hawaii Gas.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Hawaii Gas is in support of SB 2478. Reinstating this credit will be pivotal to generate more of these innovative clean energy alternatives, such as Hawaii Gas's Honouliuli wastewater treatment plant. We asked the committee to consider the following amendments to the bill: add wastewater in the definition of a renewable source, include a refundable tax credit amendment similar to the section in the Renewable Energy Investment Tax Credit, because new developers may not have a state tax appetite for many years, and increase the minimum production to 15 billion BTUs from 2.5 billion BTUs to help minimize the impact to the state and ratepayers. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Julie. We have Tom Yamachika from the Tax Foundation.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We've submitted written testimony. Basically, what we would like the committee to consider is a subsidy or direct appropriation as opposed to a tax credit, because with a tax credit, you don't know what you're getting and you don't know how much you're paying for it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Next, we have Robert King from Pacific Biodiesel Technologies. Oh, Bob, we can't hear you. Mr. King?
Chair, it seems that he's having technical difficulties.
Let's try it one more time, Mr. King. No. I'm sorry, I don't understand sign language either. Sorry, Mr. King, but we do have your written testimony and I certainly read it, so I shouldn't take that into account. Sorry about that, Mr. King, but thank you for joining us. You look very handsome today. And we also have Roberta Baker and Ron Riley, both who have expressed interest, but I'm not too sure they are online.
Not present, Chair.
Okay, members, any questions of those who have testified?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Senator Misalucha.
So for the tax office, please,
Josh.
Josh.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, the IT is not letting me turn my video back on, but I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Hear you.
Oh, thank you, Vice
So-
Chair. Oh,
So
yeah,
my question is
sure.
there a mechanism which would involve ensuring that there won't be any double credits? So for somebody, for instance, claiming credit for this and then having another credit on their solar system.
We have language elsewhere in the income tax chapter that does this sort of thing, you know, preventing any amount used on this credit from being claimed elsewhere credit. I'd be happy to send some sample language over to the chair's office.
Okay, I think that might be appropriate, only
Okay.
because, yeah, we want to make sure that it's fair.
Yeah,
Sure.
no double dipping
Yeah.
or triple dipping worse.
Sure, I'll make a note of that. I'll be happy to reach out.
Thank you.
Members, forgive me, I forgot to mention that there was Matthew Geyer who expressed interest to join us on this measure. Is Mr. Geyer here? Matt Geyer? Oh,
Yes, I'm here.
I'm sorry, Matt.
Thank you,
Please
Chair.
feel free to share with us.
Thank you, Chair, for hearing measures to support our environment. We critically need to have some action now. The concern here is making sure, again, to echo what Ted Bowen said earlier, we don't support any measures that encourage the cutting down of forests and burning them for energy. That is more expensive than coal for ratepayers, and it's worse for the environment. Once you cut down that forest, the forest floor actually starts emitting carbon into the atmosphere. You have all the expense from cutting down trees and bringing them in. It's going to be worse for the environment. It's going to be worse for ratepayers. So once again, appreciate your efforts to do something for the environment and make sure that it doesn't encourage wood burning plants.
Thank you for your commentary, Mr. Geyer. Again, sorry, members, any further questions of those who have testified on this measure?
This is for Hawai'i Gas, I guess. In their testimony, Hawai'i Gas said increase the minimum production to 15 billion BTUs from 2.5. So I don't know if gas is still on there, or if anybody could speak to that. I don't know if that's a tax question, but how many people would be eliminated by raising the minimum production level?
Julie's there.
What's the purpose of raising it from 2.5 million to 2.5 billion to 15 billion?
Sure, no, I can answer that. Julie Yunker with Hawai'i Gas. It aligns with the original statute that was in the original production tax credit. I believe that there were 15 million BTUs in that project, and that is actually, if you look at it, not a large amount. So it supports a lot of the commercial and kind of utility grade projects. So just aligning that really with the original statute.
Yeah, but wouldn't there be new technology now, or maybe other alternatives, other projects that fall under that large scale development threshold, or whatever the, what would be the harm of having it at 2.5 billion? Why should
Yeah,
it?
no, I think, no harm. We were just thinking that it would just go back to kind of what we have today, which, enables a lot of people to take advantage of the 15 billion BTUs. No harm in the 2.5 billion BTUs, but just kind of sets the bar at kind of some of these larger scale projects.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Sure, you're so welcome. Any further questions on Senate Bill 2478? Okay. Members, we're going to move on to our next measure, that is Senate Bill 2511. On our testifiers list, we have Isaac Choi from DOTAX.
Hi again, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Josh Michaels on behalf of the Director. We'll stand on our testimony offering comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. We have Scott Glenn from the Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair. The Energy Office stands on its testimony offering comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We have Henry Curtis from Life of the Land.
Not present, Chair.
Okay, sorry about that, Mr. Curtis. We're going to move on to Tom Yamachika from the Tax Foundation.
Thank you, Chair and members. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. Our comments on this bill are pretty much the same as the previous one. We do want to also point out that the term firm renewable energy system doesn't seem to be well defined, and we think it should be better defined to embrace exactly which technologies you want to incent.
Got it. Thank you, Tom. We have Rebecca Dayhuff Matsushima from Hawai'i Electric.
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Hawaiian Electric is testifying in support of SB 2511, and we've provided some minor suggested revisions in our bill, specifically in subsection A, to change direct current to alternating current, which would be more specific to firm generating units. We do believe that firm generation is imperative to maintaining the reliability of our electric grid, and that this bill would incentivize new firm renewable generation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. And we have Dean Nishina from DCCA.
Hi, good afternoon. I think I'm testifying on the next measure and not.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Sorry.
Thank
We're glad you're there though, Dean.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, members. That is all I have for the those expressing interest in testifying on this measure. Any questions?
Just a quick one for Chair.
Of course, Senator Smith.
Yeah. For the tax office again, Josh.
Again, Vice Chair.
Yeah, in your testimony, you wanted to defer the start of the implementation to after December 31st because of some systems that you think it needs to be supported in order to implement this initiative. What kind of systems are you talking about? How can you rationalize it? Yeah.
So in terms of when we're talking about the system, that's actually referring to the type of system being contemplated within the statute, because this would be, as we read it, a pretty significant change to the RETITC. We actually need time to update the forms, instructions, and computer to reflect the system change. It's not a new system per se coming on our end.
If it were to be implemented the way it's written right now, though, which is July, I think, right? Would that cause a hardship?
Well, in terms of as a general principle, income tax changes in the middle of a taxable year. There's equity in terms of like a level playing field for all taxpayers, and also in terms of just the administrative steps necessary. This would be much preferred for the department to be able to properly implement everything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Questions? I have a quick question for HECO. Was it Rebecca?
Yes, Chair.
I'm trying to understand when you said that you wanted to change the language from direct to alternating current. Is that if I heard you correctly, you were saying that because alternating current was for firm renewables and direct is not? Or could you help me understand the difference between direct and alternating current?
Sure. So direct currents would be more in line for an inverter-based resource, such as PV or wind, where they're measuring the panel output before it goes into an inverter and is converted to alternating current power. Whereas the firm resource, it is in alternating current when it interconnects to the grid. So there's no conversion through an inverter. And so that's the difference here between the language that might be used for an inverter-based resource.
Okay, so in this particular measure, we're trying to include the intermittent solar and wind, and then move a little bit towards firm renewables. So by taking out direct and replacing with alternating, we're not cutting out the intermittent folks, correct?
Well, I believe the intermittent is in a separate section. So this section was specific to the firm renewable energy system.
Okay,
this additional language that was added.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. I just didn't want to have a consequence of us cutting out one and then inadvertently cutting out the intermittent folks. Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me, Rebecca. Members, any further questions? Yes. Okay. Thank you. We're going to move on to Senate Bill 2057. And this is where we get Dean Nishina on board.
Aloha and good afternoon, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nishina appearing on behalf of the Division of Consumer Advocacy. We stand in our written testimony offering comments available for questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Jay Griffith from the PUC.
Good afternoon, members. You have our written testimony and comments, and I really just wanted to summarize two areas. We have concerns about the impact here on the cost of living and potential impact on community impacts of renewable energy projects. And so for the first topic, really all three areas contemplated here, the 6-month timeline on rate making, the automatic extension on a power purchase agreement, as well as a 6-month timeline on PPA decisions, all have implications that could raise the cost of electric utilities and raise the cost of living. And I can go through more detail if necessary. On the community impacts, I think if you look at our phase 1 and phase 2 projects, of all of those, we've had 2 requested contested cases. And in both of those cases, to follow through that whole process requires more than 6 months. And if we were to shortchange that, that will be a challenge for the durability of those decisions, as well as providing due process for those interested. That's my minute, so thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Henry Curtis from Life of the Land. Not too sure if Henry is joining us.
Present, Chair.
Oh, not present. Okay. Ted Boland from Climate Protectors of Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair Ms. Lucha, and members of the committee. As with the previous testimony, I have some concerns here, but different. I have the experience of having worked in another jurisdiction, PUC, where they had a 10-month suspension period and they shortened it to 6 months. And in my opinion, it was not a good move. It really crunched the ability of the PUC and the public to get their cases through and heard. And so I would oppose this bill with a 6-month period. I also have some questions about the exemptions for certain projects. I don't have testimony in that because I'm not sure what it would entail, but some concerns about this. So in general, Climate Protectors Hawaii are opposed to this bill and do not think it's necessary. Available for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted. Next on our testifiers list, we have Rebecca Deo Matsushima from HECO.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Hawaiian Electric stands on our written testimony for this bill, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. We have Christopher Dean.
Thank you, committee. This is Christopher Dean, and I am speaking on behalf of the Recycle Hawaii and founder of Clean the Pacific. And while I appreciate the incentive behind this legislation to expedite our transition to renewable, sustainable energy sources, I am in opposition to the current statement of this or formation of this legislation, because it seems as though it could be a kind of express path for other entities that claim that they are renewable. So they could pass themselves off as renewable when actually they aren't. For example, biomass generation, which is 150% more carbon emissions than burning coal. And that's not including all the carbon emitted from clear-cutting forest. So that's the fundamental objection I have to that.
Thank you for your commentary, Dean, Christopher. Next, we have Roberta Baker and Ron Riley.
Not present, Chair.
Okay, we're gonna go on to our other testifiers for this bill. Jeff McKnight.
Not present, Chair.
Okay, and Matthew Geyer again. Hopefully he's here. Oh, there's Matt.
Aloha, Chair. This is Matthew Geyer. I'm the Director of Public Outreach for the Environmental Justice Task Force of Faith Action for Community Equity, but today I am testifying as an individual. And to echo the last testimony and my previous testimony, this bill seems like it could potentially benefit primarily the wood burning sector, you know, and again, using wood to generate electricity does not make sense from an environmental standpoint or from a community standpoint in terms of how much we would be paying to generate electricity. It's something you really need to take a close look at, and like the previous testifier said, it's way worse than burning coal. It's just all around a bad thing. So perhaps an amendment to some of this legislation is to make sure that renewable energy does not include, your definition of renewable energy does not include any kind of power plant that is burning wood.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Geyer. Members, any questions of those who joined us via Zoom? Yes, Senator Misalucha.
I have a question for Jay. So Jay, I know historically you said 6 to 12 months is when you normally do your complete review, but what are you averaging right now? How long does it take?
Sure, thank you, Senator. So that 6 to 12 months were almost always for project or PPAs that were bilateral negotiations. And so as we received the first two phases of procurement, one, they'd been through a competitive process. And so we had confidence in how some of that filtering, and in the first round, 6 of the 7 were done and completed in 3 months review. The 7th one, this was a case on Maui. Paiahu Solar was requested a contested case. That took longer to run through the process and currently on appeal. And then in phase 2, I think most of our decisions were between 4 and 6 months save. I think the remaining projects are either the highest cost ones or the one project that requested a contested case. The others were 4 to 6 months.
So without a contested case, it would be 3 months is your average?
I think our average has been 4 to 6, or the longer ones are actually are also the highest cost projects. So that's why I referred to the cost of living. When we take more time, we want to be, it's generally in those two categories. There's been significant opposition or they're high cost projects, and we're doing a careful review to make sure they're necessary.
That's why I wanted to actually, there's a statement that you made in your testimony that was intriguing, that you said rushing through the decision-making process will have unintended consequences of raising rates. So I wanted you to explain and elaborate on that statement.
Sure, I think that's exactly what I was speaking about in the last. If you look at the remaining cases that were not contested cases are standalone storage projects. Of the phase 1 and phase 2 projects, these are all the highest cost. And so we've been trying to make sure that they're necessary on each island. And that if we were forced to decide earlier, I think as some of the other testimony, we either prematurely deny before we do the case or before we run the review, or we're pushed to approve something that we haven't totally vetted. So that would be on the cost of living impact there. On the rate making question, that was I think section 3 of the bill. So that's referring to general rate, our understanding of the way that was written, that's referring to the general rate cases for all utilities. So these are when the utilities come in and ask us to raise rates on all customers to address what they propose are higher cost. And so these are very time intensive endeavors. The Consumer Advocate's Office does a thorough review to make sure that the costs being proposed and whatever the final decision is are just and reasonable rates for the services provided. And so shortchanging that aspect similarly is going to force us to make earlier decisions, and particularly Dean's office have to negotiate some of these settlements on a much tighter timeline before doing their full review. The second provision in there was to allow automatic or extension of power purchase agreements at the end of their term if there was a decrease in the price. Obviously, the decrease is good, but there's a general presumption that the cost should go down when you extend these projects. A lot of the infrastructure has already been amortized. There's generally a recapitalization of the project. And so what we would look to do in these, we have a few of these active right now. We review the costs of those, they look at the reinvestment of the project, but make sure there is a substantial rate decrease, not just under the way this is constructed. It could be a minimal one, and the presumption is that it's approved. And these extensions, the 3 that we have active, I think it's 3, are again between 10 and 30 years. So it's not a small trivial matter that they get an automatic pass.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Sure. Any questions? Oh, okay. Thank you, Jay. We're going to move on to our next measure. That is Senate Bill 2171. On our testifiers list, we have Dean Nishina from the Consumer Advocacy Office.
Aloha again, Chair and members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony offering comments available for questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Scott Glenn from the State Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair. We stand on our written comments and available for testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Jay Griffin from the PUC.
Thank you. We stand on our written testimony as well and available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. We have James Abraham from Hawai'i Electric.
Chair and members of the committee, James Abraham on behalf of Hawai'i Electric. We do have a few things I wanted to note as provided in our written testimony. Wheeling is both operationally and economically complex, especially on isolated, island grids such as we have here in Hawaii. Hawai'i Electric does currently have some wheeling type of concepts in some programs that we offer or that are before the PUC under consideration. And these programs have been designed to try to meet the delicate balance of equity and other key principles that we've noted in our written testimony. Hawai'i Electric does have concerns that this bill as currently drafted may not take into consideration these important principles and in the end may hinder our progress towards a renewable energy future. Thank you.
Thank you, James. We have Sandie Wong from Hawai'i Power.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sandie Wong. I'm testifying on behalf of Hawai'i Power, which is a wind generator on the south point of the Hawaii Island. We are in very strong support of this bill. We have submitted written testimony and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandie. That's it for our testifiers list. Members, any questions of those who have joined us? Okay. We're going to move on to our next measure, that is Senate Bill 2474. And on our testifiers list, we have Dean Nishina from DCCA.
Good afternoon again, Chair Wakai, members of the committee. You have our written testimony. Stand on it, offering comments. Available for questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Scott Glenn from the State Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair. The Energy Office stands on its written testimony offering comments and available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Jay Griffin from the PUC.
Good afternoon, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony as well and available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. And we have Rebecca Matsushima from Hawai'i Electric.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Hawai'i Electric is testifying in opposition of this bill. As outlined in our written testimony, we understand the significance of the issues raised in the preamble to this bill, but we do have concerns with the changes proposed. We're committed to improving the interconnection process for utility scale projects. And in fact, we have continuously improved that process between our stage 1 and stage 2 RFPs and have suggested even further improvements in our stage 3. We also have been actively working in the PBR docket with a group of stakeholders on our proposed improvements to the section, as well as possible performance incentive mechanisms. We'd also like to point out that in the performance-based improvement rate docket, the RPS-A PIM that is in place also already significantly incentivizes the utility to increase the speed of interconnection. We do believe this bill could have unintended consequences and could add to the costs for customers, as well as maybe result in the loss of projects. Thank you for allowing me to testify and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's it for our live testimony. Members, any questions of those who have joined us? Rebecca, I have a quick question. I understand HECO's opposition to this interconnection bill, but I wanted to understand, because we really need to do a full court press on getting more renewables onto the grid. And we have all kinds of community pushback. Certain communities don't like wind, they don't like PV. Some communities are not going to embrace offshore wind as well. And I think as a legislative body, we might want to look at starting to look at creating just energy zones so that we have an entity that designates certain spots for certain types of renewable energy activities. Are you able to talk to me or talk to us about the grid planning process? And I understand you did HECO did a study called the Transmission Renewable Energy Zones. Can you kind of update us on what came out of those studies?
Sure. Actually, if you don't mind, Mark Bassano is on to testify on another bill, but he's actually leading our effort in that planning process, and he might better be able to answer those questions.
Oh, and there he is, like magic. Mark, can you talk to us about the Transmission Renewable Energy Zone study HECO did?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So that study that we completed as part of the integrated grid planning process was just sort of the first in a long process, I would say. But what we did was we worked with NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab, to model the technical potential on each island for wind and solar. So by technical potential, we made certain land exclusions in terms of figuring out how much solar could actually be built on each island. So for example, we excluded important agricultural lands and land that's agricultural land that's rated at A soil rating, consistent with some of the state laws. So, but anyway, we assessed how much solar could be built, and then we and wind, and then grouped that, and then determined the transmission infrastructure that would be needed to interconnect the megawatts of solar and wind that were identified in each of those zones. And that's really to facilitate interconnection, because we know the existing transmission system wouldn't be able to interconnect those high amounts of wind and solar as is.
Okay. So would you be open, or would HECO be open to us putting some of that language that you have from your energy zone study into this particular bill? Because I just see that that's part and parcel. We could have all the interconnections that we want or set up a process, but if we never have any sites to actually do the renewables, it doesn't matter. The interconnection never going to happen. So to me, it kind of works hand in glove to have the language here that kind of puts the interconnection pieces together, and also ensure that we have renewable projects to interconnect to. So would HECO be open to putting your study into this bill?
I think it sort of depends on what the specific language would be. I think the potential barriers we see, is just sort of the cost to build those transmission facilities. And then also, we're really keen on being able to work with the communities and landowners that would enable us to accomplish those goals.
Chair, if I may, I think to Mark's last point, we really want to be able to remain flexible in the interconnection planning process. So any language that we would add, we would just want to make sure that there's flexibility to adjust for community concerns, adjust for changing technologies, or anything else, that may happen in the future, and just make sure that whatever gets put in place is not so prescriptive that it actually prevents moving forward at a quick pace.
Okay, totally understandable. I mean, I think if we were to move this and provide amendments, I would pass those definitions and the language by you before we were to vote on it. But at least you're receptive to the idea of putting these things together. Members, any questions? Okay, thank you, Mark, as well as Rebecca. We're going to move on to our next and, wow, last bill already. That is Senate Bill 3057. On our testifiers list, we have Patrick McCain from the Department of Transportation.
Not present, Chair.
Oh, okay, sorry about that, Mark. Scott Glenn from the Office of Energy.
Hello, Chair, I'm here. Okay, I can start my video. Thank you. Chair, thank you for hearing this bill. This is an administration bill looking to put into statute the incredible progress that the state has been making on its renewable portfolio standard, which has been a world-leading goal set by Hawaii in the legislature in 2015. At the time, the legislation was set to analyze sales as a form of addressing how we could calculate progress on this goal. And today we have made sufficient progress that the public now supports this goal and understands the goal to be about generation. And so what this goal does, what this bill proposes to do, is to change the standard for calculating our progress away from net sales and focusing on generation, which is how we actually do reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, because the current way of calculating the RPS still will allow for Hawaiian Electric to rely on fossil fuels to meet our renewable portfolio standard. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Scott. Dean Nishina from DCCA.
Aloha, Chair. You have our written testimony and supports, and I stand on that and available for questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Jay Griffin from the PUC.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. We stand on our testimony in support as well and available for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. And we have Henry Curtis has expressed interest, but I don't think he has joined us. Ted Boland, I believe, is still around. Ted? No, Ted Boland?
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair.
Yep.
Sorry, a little video problem there.
No problem.
This is an important bill because in my mind, the RPS method of measurement has been in error by focusing on sales. As Mr. Glenn said, it is more appropriate to do it based on generation. The purpose of the RPS is to get the utilities to develop renewable standards, renewable sources, and to measure the appropriate amount, the percentage that we're reaching. When you have, based on sales, you have a mismatch because the generation is the issue. And I support this bill, the climate protectors support this bill very strongly because we think the generation is the appropriate way to measure this, especially as we move toward more customer supplied generation. The measure becomes farther and farther away from where it should be. So please pass this bill. I've submitted written testimony and available for comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted. We have Mark Asano from Hawaiian Electric.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. As you know, we released our climate change action plan late last year to reduce carbon emissions by 70% compared to 2005. We're firmly committed to accelerating renewable energy, and we've been incentivized to do so by the PUC. However, we do express a few concerns on some of the technical aspects of actually achieving the 100% renewable energy, and I think it's along the lines of the previous discussion on making sure that we're able to do that through renewable energy zones or other new technologies out to 2045 and available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Micah Munakata.
Not present, Chair.
Ulupono. Okay, sorry about that, Micah. We have Roberta Baker as well as Ron Riley, who have expressed interest but have not been able to join us for previous measures, so I don't think they're around. And that is all we have for those live testifiers. Members, any questions? Oh, Senator Revere.
Thanks. I think it might be Hawaii Energy, maybe Scott Glenn. Question is, comparing with the change of this definition, what was the official score for last year for the renewable energy delivery or sales, and what would it be if we use this new definition?
Thank you, Senator Revere. The definition would change the number, that's for sure. And I'm actually looking for the number right now. I had it in my files, and I can always follow up with you. The effect of changing it to generation would in effect increase the amount required by the target. So, so that is something that I think would also help encourage HECO to continue making the progress they are making in particular. So if I can follow up with you on the number and specifically, the one thing that I think maybe you might be asking is in 2020, we hit the target of 30%. And were that to change, it might go up a few percentage points for the 2020 target, in which case we're still, if I recall correctly, exceeding that. Today we're at about 36% statewide based on net sales, where the next target is 2040. And so at 2030, where we need to be at 40%. And so that's the point of why we're raising this now. It's time to make that change, because if we look back to 2020, it's only off by a few percentage points. But as we go forward to 2030, that gap will grow larger and larger. So let's course correct today while we can, and it's still a minor adjustment. And we know Hawaiian Electric is already going above and beyond where we are, and it helps make sense more for the generation side.
So without being, requiring precision, if we're at 36% officially right now, and we change the definition, it's going to be a smaller number. So we'd be with, I'm just guessing, 33% of the portfolio. I mean, it goes, in other words, we're farther from our goal by changing this definition. Is that correct?
That's right. Although we're truing it up, and we're ahead of the goals set in statute already with respect to the past goals that we've already achieved.
Oh, I see your distinction there. Yeah. So going back, even if you retooled and said instead of 36, we're at 30, you said, well, good, we still made it for last year, but you got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for Scott. So Scott, I'm sure you've done your due diligence as far as what other states are doing. So are we joining a growing trend of changing that definition, or are we ahead of the curve?
Thanks, Senator. Many states look to Hawaii. So in many cases, we were the benchmark for them to decide how they would do something. And in addition to our date, so 2045, which is what the legislature said in 2015, served as the foundation for others. Most also adopted 2045. Others tried to achieve it before us or after us. But I think more states did not use the sales target, but instead focused on generation or other ways of accounting. So many states are looking at what makes sense for their system and their history and within the utilities that work with them. One of the issues that states on the continental US have that we don't is that they have interconnected grids, and they have utilities that operate across multiple states with multiple jurisdictions. And so they have cross-border adjustments and accounting issues that they have to work on. Here in Hawaii, because each island is a standalone grid, then we can account by island and county and by state much more accurately when it comes to generation versus sales.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? Okay, that wraps it up for our testimony. We're going to take a brief recess before taking the vote. Welcome back. Thank you for your patience with the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. Our 3 o'clock agenda. We are ready for decision-making on this agenda. On the first bill, Senate Bill 2283, relating to the Hawaii Hydrogen Strategic Plan, we'd like to pass this measure out with a number of amendments. We would like to take HNEI's recommendations about moving elements of Section 1 to Section 2A1, change the reporting date from 2023 to 2024, and take out any appropriation. Woohoo, the people are going to get a free study, courtesy of HNEI. Oh, and we want to include the Hawaii gas into the study. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Senate Bill 2283, Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lee excuse, Senator Riviere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Fantastic. We are going on to Senate Bill 2570 relating to zero emission vehicle refueling rebates. We'd like to pass this measure out with amendments, and here are the amendments. We're going to lift the spending cap to $700,000 versus the current $500,000 cap. We're going to cap the hydrogen refueling station. Each individual project can only gobble up $200,000, making sure the hydrogen doesn't steal all of the efforts in refueling in this refueling rebate program. We're going to exclude hydrogen produced by fossil fuels, and just doesn't make sense if we were to burn oil or coal or what have you to create hydrogen and then use it for a fueling station. That doesn't make sense. So we're going to make sure that the hydrogen used in these fueling stations that are going to take advantage of the rebate are not made from fossil fuels. Also, technical amendments, and we're going to also take into account Scott Glenn and the Hawaii State Energy Office's suggestion that wherever it says vehicle fueling, we're going to replace that by vehicle infrastructure. So those are the suggested amendments. Members, any questions or comments? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
As regards to Senate Bill 2570, the chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lee excuse, Senator Riviere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Thank you. On Senate Bill 2478 relating to taxation, this is our effort to kind of push the state towards more firm renewables. We've done a good job with intermittent renewables, but we would like to pass this measure with a number of amendments. The first is to take DOE tax recommendations, which is to amend Section 2 that limits entities that can take advantage of the credit. Make sure that we're hitting the right targets with this tax credit. Take Hawaii Gas's recommendation of putting wastewater in as an acceptable fuel source. We also are going to, page 2, delete the maximum taxpayer numbers, as well as blank out the total amount of the tax credit. So anytime you see any kind of dollar figure, we're going to let our friends in WAM take care of that. So all of the dollar amounts will be blanked out. And then we're going to make technical non-substantive amendments. And we're going to take Senator Misalucha's really astute suggestion that there will be no double dipping. So if you take advantage of this renewable energy tax credit, you cannot take advantage of others. So those are the recommendations. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Senate Bill 2478, Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lee excuse, Senator Riviere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Reservations.
Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Thank you. On the next bill, Senate Bill 2511, another effort to try and push more firm renewables. We'd like to pass this measure with amendments. So we're going to take DOE tax's recommendations of defining firm renewable energy systems. Also, DOE tax recommendation to clarify the calculation of the credit and make it applicable at the beginning of December 31st, 2022. Also, there was a gentleman, Richard Walgrove, who had good definitions of firm renewable. We're going to put his definition of firm renewable into this measure, and also add language to clarify any taxpayer may not claim multiple renewable energy tax credits for the same system, similar to what Senator Misalucha recommended on the previous measure. And in addition, we're going to, in an effort to keep it to large-scale projects, we're going to make sure that the output of anybody who avails themselves to this tax credit is at least 1,000 kilowatts per system of alternating current. And we're going to use HECO's recommendation that we're going to delete direct current and replace it with alternating current. So those are all of the recommendations for this measure. Any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
Thank you, Chair. For Senate Bill 2511, Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. For the remaining members, are there any reservations?
Reservation, please.
Thank you. Any nays? Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Thank you. On Senate Bill 2057 relating to the renewable energy, it's the shot clock on the PUC. Well, the members have discussed things and don't see that there is a big problem that's going to get solved by this measure, so we will defer action on that bill. 2171, this is the wheeling bill. I'd like to pass this measure with a number of amendments. First, taking DCCA's recommendation to protect consumers from any kind of substandard service that might be a product of wheeling. And we're going to add subsection E into section 2 on page 3. We're also going to take PUC's recommendations, which is to change the date to December 31st, 2023, as well as the subsequent reporting date to the legislature. That will be for the 2024 session. And on page 2, lines 16 through 21, allow the commission to implement provisions of this measure through their rules or commission order, giving them some flexibility on wheeling, as well as technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Senate Bill 2171, Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye for the remaining members. Are there any reservations? Any nays? Your recommendation's adopted, Chair.
Thank you. The next measure is Senate Bill 2474. This is relating to the interconnection issue. I want to work a little bit more on putting in language that allows for energy zones, because then we would be taking care of both the interconnection as well as making sure that we have renewable projects that can actually interconnect. So if you could, if you wouldn't mind indulging me, I'd like to defer action on this measure. I'll issue a hearing notice when we're going to take up action, but I'd like to pass that energy zone language by all of you, as well as for to HECO, to make sure everybody is kind of in line. So we're going to defer action for now on Senate Bill 2474. The last measure on our agenda is Senate Bill 3057 relating to renewable portfolio standards. This is generation versus sales. I think we all see the value in this measure. So I'm going to take DCCA's recommendations, which is unfortunately in the drafting, we put it in the wrong section of law, and we're going to create a new section in HRS Chapter 269, as well as make technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
Last but not least,
Great.
Senate Bill 3057. Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lee is excused. Senator Riviere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Your recommendation's adopted, Chair. Good job this afternoon.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. Bye, Kurt.